And now, another episode of the Upper One Podcast from the great city of Anchorage, Alaska, with your hosts, Scott and Eric.
Just like to say welcome back to another episode of the Upper One Podcast. Eric, I got some stuff to talk about today. Today was the opening day of the start of shrimping season, which runs from April 15th to September 15th in Prince William Sound up here. You know, each year they've been putting out not necessarily the regulations are changing, but how many shrimp pots you can carry.
Yeah, that's making it hard for us to get out there and get enough shrimp.
Yeah. I imagine with these new pot quantities that they've changed, they knocked it. Last year it was 4 per vessel. They knocked it down to 3. I would imagine that there's just a lot of people coming out and shrimping, or maybe it's getting overfished. Based on what you report, because you're supposed to report how many gallons in a gallon-sized Ziploc bag that you catch every year. You're supposed to report that at the end of the season. How many have you caught all year long? So I would imagine that they're getting their numbers off of that, what's being reported, but also the number of permits they're putting out is probably, everybody's wanting shrimp now.
Well, I love shrimp. I've always loved shrimp, and I enjoy going out shrimping with
our buddy Warren.
I get to go out with.
Yep.
Yeah,
Warren got us started. Now that I got my boat, I got a couple pots, so hopefully we can get out and drop a couple this year. With everything that's going on, you know, with this virus, we talked about them shutting down the bear hunts. Well, everybody's freaking out about fishing now.
Yeah, and it sounds like with today being opening day over in Whittier, they are not happy with all these people that are flooding their community to go fishing or shrimping.
So in Whittier, 85% of the population that lives in Whittier lives in one building. It's basically one big hotel. So they're worried about, with the close quarters there, they're worried about everybody coming from Anchorage and everywhere else through the tunnel on what they're going to do. So what they've been told is get all your gear, get all your gas, get all your food before you come down there, so that when you get there, you have everything there. You don't have to stop and go in anywhere. You drop your boat in the water, park your truck and trailer, and then you go fishing and shrimping, and you come back and you gather up and you leave. You don't have to interact with any of them locals down there. So they were freaking out. You know, I get it. At the same time, you know, we're trying to stay normal, and the state has allowed us to do some of that.
Yeah, I can understand those people. You know, there's no cases of it down there. I can understand, and if I lived there, I'd probably be the same way. Kind of like Valdez. I got a friend that lives in Valdez. I talk to him on the phone a couple times a week, usually. He's like, you Anchorage folk, just stay over there. Don't come down here to Valdez. And I can understand where these guys are coming from. You see what's going on all around the world. You live in a community that you guys have stayed clean, no cases of it. I can understand not wanting people from communities known to have the disease start flooding your town.
Yeah,
and I can't blame them.
I understand that too, but just for the record, as far as I've seen, there's been no confirmed cases reported. So if that's the case, I totally agree. If you lived in Willow, where everybody passes through Wasilla, drive to Fairbanks, nobody has been confirmed in Willow, so far you don't know they don't have it. You don't want them stopping and potentially dropping it off to the gas station attendant or the grocery store attendant at the town site. Yeah. So, same with Valdez. Even though they are in our road system, they are still kind of out there community. There's limited access to it. So I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
And the same kind of goes with everywhere else. They've done that with fishing. They said, try to stay as close to your community as possible when you go fishing, which leads me to the next point. Should this hunker down social distancing go through the summer? Our big fishery here in Anchorage is Ship Creek. It gets the King Salmon Derby there.
It's shoulder to shoulder down there.
Yes, that's a big deal. It's probably one of the only urban fishing spots in the country where you can catch fish in the city limit, especially big fish like that.
Well, I wouldn't say that. Maybe it's the only spot where you're going to catch king salmon.
When people fish down there, it is shoulder-to-shoulder combat fishing. If you ever heard anything about fishing in Alaska, especially for king salmon, there's more lines tangled than even 1% of fish caught out of that creek. So how's that going to happen? Is there going to be swordfish fighting with your fishing pole because people aren't staying within?
It definitely should be interesting to see what happens.
The bottom line is things are going to change. I don't think we're going to get the boat out as much this summer as we have in the past several years just because, but I'm going to try to get out and go fishing.
Because of what?
Well,
Don't tell me the COVID's going to stop you from
No,
taking your boat out.
it's not.
I was going to say, you can park it in my driveway. I'll help you.
I just don't know with everything going on. How are we going to get back to normal and be able to do everything every weekend or every other weekend like we want to do? I don't know how that's going to happen.
What I'm curious about is these towns that have all these fisheries. I got a family of friends that live in Sitka. They're all concerned right now because there are some big fisheries down there that bring in 450 to almost 1,000 workers a year that come into there and they work in the
Processing.
plant. Thank you. They're all like, holy smoke. We don't have any cases down here. Everybody's been good. I mean, even though we're still doing the hunkering down here, the canneries and fisheries and that, they're getting ready to bring in all these people for the
Yeah, they're
summer.
employees. Yep.
We got to stay at home.
And you
but
get
yet
to-
they're going to bring in.
They're employees that live out of state that come up just for the summer to work.
Yeah.
Right now, you travel anywhere, you've got to quarantine
hunker
yourself
down
for
14 days.
2 weeks. So are you going to bring them in 2 weeks prior to the date you anticipate opening? That's where I was getting at with the boat, is how are we going to handle things on being able to do everything normally like we want? Shanna had her cousin was going to come up 4th of July weekend from Arizona. We were going to go fishing in Seward 4th of July weekend. He can he's a ex-military, so he can rent a room down there at the fish house, the Seward Rec Camp. So we were going to be able to go stay there, park the boat, and have a place to stay for the weekend and take him fishing. So how's that going to work now?
Yeah, it's this whole summer's up in the air. Just heard that Princess Cruises, cruise line or whatever, they shut down their whole business for the summer in Alaska.
That's not just hurting the business and their employees. That's hurting our economy, because not only is Alaska an oil producer, we are a tourist trap. And a lot of our money, I don't even know if 80% is even the right number, but 80% of our economy in the summer is tourists.
Absolutely.
So-
my sister is shut down right now because she's in the tourist
Yes,
industry.
that's where we're at. I haven't read into everything else that's going on. All I know is in the end, it's going to affect us on how we normally do things.
Yeah, I think the 3-pot limit on shrimp.
Okay, so here's
back
my
to what we started.
yeah,
on.
here's my idea with that. Am I going to catch enough shrimp for me with 3 pots? I probably would. But our normal
I'm more
summers,
worried about, are you going to catch enough for me?
only if you go with me.
Oh, whoa, come on now.
But what I was getting at is, when I've got family back home, and Shanna does too. So when we leave, we take boxes of, we take a couple of freezer boxes of meat from hunting, fish, and then, now that I got shrimp pots, shrimp I'm hoping to take.
The Alaskan Care Package.
There you go. It makes it easier taking family, the care package stuff, when you can pack it in a cold box and just use it as carry-on luggage. And then that way we get to bring home some good food, some Mexican food and burritos. And anyway, that's how we do it. And I'm just curious as to how that's going to go, and it's affecting us. But
You got to fill that freezer first before you
Yep.
can send them Alaskan Care Packages.
so shrimping season got started. Tim just walked in, so we'd like to welcome Tim back.
Yep, welcome
Hopefully
back.
we're gonna have some fun. So we got the NFL draft coming up. Everything going on. It's gonna be funky. They're going to broadcast it over air instead of having a live draft.
With the situation today, do they have much choice?
No, they don't.
Honestly, do they really need the spectacle that they have been putting on for the last few years? The
Yeah,
teams could all be in their office, knowing who they want, and just call it in. With the technology they have today, they don't need to have everybody live there.
Yeah, I was just watching tonight on the NFL Network, and they actually talked about how they would sit in their offices and nobody knew nothing until days later.
It's like you said, it's a spectacle, and it actually gives those college players that are getting drafted, it gives them the chance to get up and be recognized by everybody, where they get to walk across the stage and hold the jersey up with the commissioner. I think that's what it's all about to me.
You know that the teams already have the jerseys made up.
Yes.
Because the first few picks are already decided.
Yep, they
right?
already,
Like,
it's prearranged.
whoever's going to pick Joe Burrow, and they already got a jersey with his
Yep.
name on it.
Yeah, probably sitting right underneath that podium when he
That's
walks
right.
up, isn't it?
So, they're going to have film crews in the top recruits' homes anyway, probably.
I think
They'll be sitting with their families, and there'll be some guy there with a camera. And when he gets picked, they're going to put him on camera,
Holding his jersey up.
holding the jersey, because it's probably already going to be there in somebody's pouch, and they're going to hand it to him.
Now, the players, when they're at home and they get announced, they don't put the jersey up. And I don't know. I tell you what, I bet you they got that kid's name on a few different teams' jerseys. I mean, by the time
do.
it comes draft day, they know who's in the market of trying to look to push up.
I just
There
want
could
to
be
know
a
who
possibility.
had Aaron Rodgers' jersey, and they never pulled it out.
What else besides the draft is going on? Rule changes?
Yeah, they talked about some rule changes.
They have rule changes every year.
Yes. And
They don't always work out. Sometimes they only last a year. There's a few that they've changed that I really like. It's like the extra point when they push that back.
Oh, instead of hiking it,
being
the ball being
from
placed at the
2-yard
2-yard line.
Automatic one.
They moved it
Yeah.
back so it's no longer automatic. And how many kickers have missed?
Oh, yeah, there was-
and it's not automatic anymore.
On that, talking about kicking, I'd love for the NFL to adopt the XFL's kickoff rule. I like that.
Well, that's where I thought we would go, is talking about the kickoff rules, because all of these rule changes to me leads into being safer.
Absolutely. And that's why I like that kickoff rule that they implement in the XFL. And I think instead of seeing a guy just down the ball every time, you're seeing
Give
play
them a chance to
going
run it
on.
back. Yeah.
Exactly. And the guys are close enough together to where they're not getting that full built up steam of running 50 yards apart and then running into each other. I like that kickoff rule in the XFL. I really do.
I'm all for them being safer. I just hope
and-
that
and,
they don't
I
choke
think-
it down so much that they ruin the thrill and the
Yes.
excitement of the game
Yep.
to where
The entertainment of it.
it'd be like watching the Pro Bowl every week.
Yeah. Well, I know that the competition committee has put out a couple of suggestions for rule changes, and one of them has to do with the kickoff returners being defenseless and being able to prepare for those hits. So that goes back to your kickoff rule. I don't know how the punts are going to work, but also, Bill Belichick took advantage of this, making multiple penalties when they have the clock running when they're ahead to keep the other team from getting the ball back. And then Tennessee turned around and used it on him. I think the competition committee is saying, we're not going to allow that, so we want to propose this rule change.
Well, yeah.
That's a good idea.
I thought it
because when I was watching, I was like, what in the
Hey,
heck are they doing?
you
But
know
I
what?
was glad to see Tennessee do it against Bill Belichick.
Exactly.
I
That's
thought it was perfect.
There's a good example of a head coach paying attention to what the other coaches are doing.
exactly. I mean,
And then he turned it right around on the guy that
That did it.
Did it
That's
the
what I'm
first
saying.
time.
I loved
and
it.
we already talked about my personal opinions about the GOAT and what's happened in the years past. But I think now that it's being lashed back to the guy that's doing all these gray area rules where he's finding, loopholes in the rules, I like seeing it put back on him. But anyways, we'll get on to that and, see what the competition committee, if they get their rule changes. But another cool one that I'd say is seen that's being proposed is an onside kick rule. Eric and I were talking about this the other day, where instead of the two teams lining up 10 yards apart and you try to kick the ball 10 yards before the kicking team can touch it and legally possess it, they make it 4th and 15 from the kicking team's 25.
Yeah.
So you have one chance to get 15 yards in order to keep the ball. Otherwise, just like a 4th down, a turnover on downs, or you don't make like an incomplete pass or something, the team gets the ball.
Yep, and they're right there in field goal range. So it's a risky call, but it would be easier than them kicking an onside kick. I think it gives a lot of teams a better chance to get that ball back. First
Yes.
and 15.
It does. And, Aaron Rodgers You know,
Exactly.
Exactly.
You know, I mean,
there's a few guys
you
that
look at it.
Even like Drew Brees.
and,
Yeah,
yeah,
Got the right
Breeze.
receivers,
Exactly.
and you could find a guy open.
Exactly.
Or
That's what
even
I'm
if
saying.
he's
To get
not
15
open,
yards.
There's a lot of times that those good quarterbacks, even when their receiver's not open, they find a way to get it.
They
to him.
scramble,
exactly.
or they
And-
scrambled for 15. You
Yeah.
know.
So another one has to do with restoring the overtime back to 15 minutes.
I kind of like the way the overtime is now. Each team gets a possession of the ball.
Yes, but
I like that.
the way it is now is if the first team that gets possession scores a touchdown, the game's over before the other team gets to touch the ball.
Okay, they're not going to listen to us, but in college, they start on the opposing team's
25-yard line.
25. So they got 25 yards to go to either
And 4
score
downs.
a touchdown or kick a field goal. All right. So in the pros, they got a kick off. Most of the time, they get a touchback and they take it to the 25. So
That's
instead
why
of
I like
starting
the
at
new
the
kickoff
25,
rule change. If
put
we could do
them
that.
on their own 40 or their own 35. And then they got to go
60 yards.
60 yards to score. But both teams should have the opportunity to have the ball.
I agree, and that's what
So,
all I'm saying.
you make them go 60 yards and they either kick a field goal or they score a touchdown. And if they score a touchdown, okay, then the other team gets the ball and they start at their 40. And if the first team scores a touchdown, then you have to tie it.
Exactly.
Well, bottom line is
but both teams get
none
a
of,
possession.
none of us are on the committee to change the rules, so
Exactly.
so it doesn't matter.
But-
Our opinions don't matter.
And they don't listen to what the fans think about
No,
it anyway.
you're
so-
absolutely right. But two more rules that I think that they're proposing are adding extra umpires or technical advisors to the refereeing crew.
Oh, more
And-
blind refs out there?
Well, obviously they're talking about doing this because the past 2 years the Saints have got eliminated based off of blind fouls or missed fouls.
Bad
So
calls.
I think that was the last 2 rule changes that were being proposed. Along with the rules being changed, the safety. Let's just talk about the XFL for a minute because it's happened twice. We shut down a little over a month ago. They were planning on playing, but now things are done. As of this past Monday, the 12th, they filed bankruptcy. Like we're talking, a couple of things that we like are the kickoff rules, and they have a 3-tier extra point rule that I really
Yes.
like. So, but not all is lost with the XFL. You and I were talking about this also.
Couple guys that
There's been a
moved up.
few players that have actually gotten contracts out of playing for the XFL, and one of them is PJ Walker, was a Temple quarterback. He played for the Houston Roughnecks, and he went 5-0. Carolina offered him a 2-year contract for $1.6 million, just
There you
based
go.
on 5 games that he played.
Yeah.
Does he have
That's-
normal
well,
hair?
Yeah, I think he's I don't think he's got hair that sticks out. I saw him.
He's not a fashionista?
Nope.
Then
Nope.
he
He's-
should be good.
I think he's just a 6-foot tall quarterback. That's what Drew Brees is, 6 foot tall.
Yep.
What? Are you talking about those outfits that Cam Newton wears?
I think he was more concerned about what he was wearing than whether or not he should be trying to win.
Cam Newton and
Oh, my Lord.
PK Subban.
I think when I see Newton, I just think of Rodman.
So the difference between Cam Newton and Dennis Rodman is that when Rodman was on the court, his playing field, he still performed,
And
regardless of what he did off the court. But Cam Newton is more concerned about what he's wearing
Well, he's
and
been
how
injured.
he looks after the show. Yeah, he's injured.
He's been injured for the last. It cut him a little bit of slack because if you remember, he was the lights out quarterback there for Carolina for a little bit.
Wait. Lights out for the first year, and then everybody caught on to him the second year, just like with Dak Prescott and RG3 and all these other quarterbacks that you always. I'm just referee calling it like I see it because that's your words exactly.
predict.
Exactly, and that is what I said.
Nobody
and
had
I'm
an
not
answer
saying
for
that he was
Kaepernick in this
perfect
first
and he
season.
was great, but he was good. He was solid, and I think that he played well. But He's been injured.
Well,
So they say.
I think he was afraid he might get a knee injury, and then he would have to limp while he was wearing his prissy clothes. So,
Well, that's about enough of that. How about we just talk about something else?
Something else.
well, I heard that some of the shops that sell fishing tackle to the commercial fishermen want to be able to open because we're getting into fishing season. Shrimping season in Alaska started on Wednesday. Well, the commercial fishermen want to go out and catch some fish to make some money. And they buy their tackle at certain shops, and because of all the shutdowns, they're not going to be able to do that.
Yeah, Scott and I had hit on some of this at the opening right before you got here. We were talking about shrimping opening up, like you were talking about, and then with this COVID-19, and then they're not wanting you to travel from
Community to community.
Yeah, so, and we had talked about how they want you to buy your tackle where you live so that when you get to the other community, you're ready to go. You're not going to their stores and doing things of that nature. So, yeah, I like the idea of the tackle shop opening. I want Cabela's open. I want Bass Pro open.
That is one of our big resources here in Alaska is fishing.
Yeah.
And if that's not considered essential, then I don't know what is.
It's essential for an awful lot of people. They depend on that.
But
money.
Exactly.
But as a sport fisherman, commercial fisher guys, they mess with our fisheries as sport fishermen. So
Right.
I'm on the fence when it comes to that. Yes, we need the revenue, but at the same time, like if I want to go dip netting, the commercial guys always screw with our dip netting numbers.
Well,
So
they've been killing the
But like-
kingfishing up the Susitna
yeah,
drainage
so
for
that's why I
years
say
now.
that's why I say I
They
sit
shut
on
us
the
down up the
fence.
river, but they can sit out there at the mouth of the river, with their big nets, and they say it's
yeah,
us
they get those
sportsmen
kings, it's
up
all
the river that
bycatch.
are cutting them down.
Like I said, that's why I'm sitting on the fence with that because it's 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other. But fishing season is coming up, just like Tim said, and that leads to longer daylight.
Yes, we're definitely getting sunshine early in the morning. It's nice to go to work and there be actual daylight.
Yeah, there'd be some sort of light coming up over the mountains
and
instead
come
of
home in daylight
Yep.
till 10 o'clock at night.
So one of Alaska is called the last frontier. It is also called the land of the midnight sun because we have so many hours of daylight during the summertime. And it's pretty nice when you are fishing because you can stay out longer. You don't have to worry about back in our day, we had to come home when the street lights came on. Well, we don't have to worry about that up here.
My mother would have never seen me in the summer.
Yeah. So I like it when we go take the boat out because you could, in certain places, you could go out at 8 o'clock at night and fish and you still have a lot of daylight. When midnight comes, there's a little bit of twilight hours. You just pull your lines before midnight and you motor around. A little bit after midnight, you can drop them back in. Then you get your 2-day limit.
Exactly.
But also with the sunlight and these warmer temperatures, a few more of these animals are starting to stir. Just this last week or so, 10 o'clock at night, out the backside of the house, we've been hearing coyotes. 10 o'clock at night howling and yipping. Teddy said at 3 in the morning he heard a wolf howling just from our house, that mountain right up above us. So, we got bears coming out and people are out, with this COVID social distancing. They're still out doing their exercising. Some people had said up near the nature center, which is about 8 miles above me, they said that they were walking back to their car and they heard a bear growling at them. So the grizzlies are out. So that's another downside of having all this daylight is, it's getting warmer and all the animals are coming out.
They've already had some black bear sightings up on Government Hill.
There was actually one over by our old stomping grounds at the CAR-T baseball fields. There was a black bear right there at Pine End Bar.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was last week also. Yeah, we've
I
had
didn't hear about that.
We've had a lot more lynx this year. I've heard somebody say that they saw a eagle swoop down and they thought it was a little dog, like a Yorkie-sized dog or something. But we also have wild rabbits running out in Eagle River where I'm at, so it was probably swooped down and grabbed a rabbit. But that's another joy. You get to see a lot of wildlife too up here.
Summer's coming.
Summer's
I
coming.
can't wait. Warmer temperatures.
So with summer coming and the longer days, the wildlife isn't the only thing that comes out, and that's all of the people that come out to enjoy the summer sports, running on the trails, softball leagues,
Little League Baseball.
Little League Baseball, all of those things that so many people take for granted in the lower 48, but we have to wait for the warmer temperatures, the
2 months
snow
a
to
year.
melt.
2 months a year. We only get to play, well, June, July, and August. We're basically 3 months out of the year we get to play it outside.
Exactly. And people get out there. And with the hunker down that we have going on here and the stay at home, people are chomping at the bit to get out. And it's going to be a little bit difficult.
Yep.
But I really believe that before it gets into full swing, because we're a little bit delayed, because we still have quite a bit of snow on the ground, and after the snow melts, we have to wait for the ground to dry out before we can really get out there and start doing things.
Yeah, exactly.
But you'll get people out there wanting to participate and start playing some sports. And
Oh, even the dog parks. There's dog parks around town that you don't have to keep them on a leash. There's the only specific parks that you can go to. So you know you're going to see everybody and their brother is going to be out and about.
yeah, that's true. And you know, it's one thing that I noticed when I first moved to Alaska as I'm driving around town, that there are a lot of ball fields. And as I'm going around, I'm like, how come there's no lights?
You don't need lights in the summer
You don't
around
need
here.
lights. It's light till
It's
midnight.
daylight all night long.
Matter of fact, talking about that, when our Woodbat summer leagues that we get up here, they play summer solstice games up here. That's some exciting times. You know, June 20th, 21st, whatever day it falls on.
Yeah,
they don't start their games till 10 o'clock at night because there's so much daylight. And then, you know, even on the 4th of July, it's still light enough that games are played here in Anchorage, and then boom, they shoot off the city fireworks right after the baseball game. How much more American is that?
Hey.
Baseball and fireworks on the 4th of
Exactly.
July.
There you go. I love those games in
Yeah.
the summer.
Yeah, I really miss those baseball games in the summer too, and I can't wait, and I hope that we get back to them. So with that being said, I think we're going to dim the lights, shut off the mics, hang up the earphones, call this one good for tonight, huh?
And pop the beers.
We've already been doing that.
Well, more.
Yeah, I just made a beer run, so. Anyhow, Tim, you got anything else to say?
I think next time we'll come up with something that Eric has a little bit more knowledge about.
Oh, that is wrong. I'm telling you, Scott, you know, I was excited about the idea of bringing Tim in.
Now it's time to kick
tell
him
you
off the reservation
I think he's been voted out of the garage.
or the sound room. Well, with that being said, Tim, thank you for coming back. We are
Love having
glad you came. We love having you. We got to do this more.
I've enjoyed myself so far, and I'd be happy to come back.
There's an open invitation for you to join us. With that being said, across from me is Eric. On my left is Tim. This is the Upper One Podcast, coming at you from the foothills of the Chugach Mountains, where the weather's getting warmer and we're really going into spring.
Finally.
Signing off. See y'all next time.
Be safe.